The crystal chamber shook as another explosion tore through the orbital station above. Myrith gripped the edge of the viewing table, her pale blue fingers trembling. The holographic display showed the truth she didn't want to accept. Red marks covered the star map. Each one represented a colony that had gone silent. Each one meant thousands of her people were dead. Council leader. "We've lost contact with the Northern Sanctuary," Thalvin said from his communications console. His voice was steady, but his eyes showed the fear they all felt. "That's the 15th shelter." In the past hour, Myrith looked around the council chamber. The other leaders sat in their floating chairs, their faces painted with shock and despair. They had ruled during times of peace. Their worlds had always been safe. They didn't know how to fight a war. They didn't even understand what war truly meant until the Kryn arrived. The Kryn swarm had appeared 3 weeks ago, at the edge of their system. At first, the Velthrin thought they could negotiate. They had always solved problems with words and trade, but the Kryn didn't want to talk. They didn't want resources or territory. They wanted to destroy everything. "How many remain?" Myrith asked quietly. Thalvin's hands moved across his console. Numbers appeared in the air. Population count shows 27% of our people are still alive. Most are in the underground shelters, but the Kryn are breaking through the defenses. They're hunting for the shelters now. 27%. That meant 73% were gone. Myrith felt sick. Over 2 billion people had lived on Thessia Prime just 3 weeks ago. Now, barely 500 million survived. "We need help," another council member said. "We must send a distress signal to the other systems. The other colonies are also under attack," Myrith replied. "The Kryn are hitting all 5 of our worlds at the same time. No one can come to save us." The chamber fell silent. Above them, the low gravity allowed small pieces of debris to float past the windows. The bioluminescent forests that had glowed for thousands of years were burning. Their beautiful world was dying. Thalvin suddenly sat up straight. "Council leader, there is one option. We could send an unrestricted distress call." "Unrestricted?" Myrith turned to him. "That means broadcasting on all frequencies, including the forbidden zones." "Yes," Thalvin said. His voice was stronger now. "Including the Deathworld zones." Fear rippled through the council. The Deathworlds were places the galactic community didn't talk about. They were planets so dangerous that the species living there had evolved into something terrifying. The stories said Deathworld creatures were violent, aggressive, and impossible to control. That's why their worlds were marked as forbidden. No one was supposed to contact them. "We can't," one council member said. "Can they?" Myrith asked, gesturing to the burning world outside. "Look at what's happening. The Kryn are killing everyone. Every child. Every elder. Everyone. If the Deathworlders come and they're hostile, we're just dead faster." The council members looked at each other. No one wanted to make this choice. But they were out of options. "Do it," Myrith said to Thalvin. "Send the signal on all frequencies. Tell anyone who can hear us that we need help. Tell them we're being exterminated." Thalvin nodded and began working. His fingers moved quickly across the console. "Broadcasting now. The signal will reach the nearest systems in hours, the further ones in days." Myrith sat down in her chair and closed her eyes. They had just broken the most sacred rule of galactic society. They had called out to the monsters in the dark. Now, they could only wait and hope. Far across the galaxy, on a station orbiting a blue and green world, Yuna was finishing her night shift. She monitored deep space communications for the Sol orbital station. Most nights were quiet. Space was big and empty. Usually, she just logged commercial traffic and the occasional science expedition report. Tonight was different. Her console lit up with alerts. A signal was coming through on multiple frequencies. She leaned forward, adjusting her headset. The signal was strong, much stronger than normal. Someone was broadcasting with a lot of power. What the? Yuna quickly began recording the transmission. She ran it through the translation software. The language wasn't one in the database, but the computer could work out the basic meaning from the mathematical patterns in the signal. When the translation appeared on her screen, Yuna felt her breath catch. It was a distress call. She read through the message quickly. Alien civilization. Under attack. Population nearly destroyed. Requesting immediate help. Yuna reached for her communicator. Commander Hyunwoo, this is communications. I need you in the monitoring station right now. What's wrong? Hyunwoo's voice came back. He sounded tired. It was late. We just received a distress signal. It's big, sir. You need to see this. 5 minutes later, Commander Hyunwoo stood behind Yuna's station, reading the translated message. His expression grew more serious with each line. Where did this come from? He asked. I've traced the origin point, Yuna said, pulling up a star map. 47 light-years from here. Andromeda sector. The signal is being broadcast on every frequency, including the old quarantine bands. Hyunwoo understood immediately. They're desperate enough to contact us. Should I forward this to Earth Command? Hyunwoo nodded slowly. Yes. Mark it as priority 1. The people down there need to see this. Within an hour, the distress call reached military headquarters on Earth. Within 2 hours, it was on the desk of Captain Taemin, commander of the UES Indomitable. He read the message 3 times, looking at the attached data that showed the destruction happening to the alien worlds. He called his senior officers to the briefing room. Jin Woo, his weapons officer, arrived first. Haina, the chief engineer, came next. Medical Officer Sumi and Marine Commander Do-hyun followed. Taemin displayed the distress signal on the main screen. We've received this from an alien species called the Velthrin. They're being wiped out by something called the Kryn Swarm. Earth Command wants us to respond. 47 light-years, Jinwoo said, studying the coordinates. That's 2 days at maximum FTL speed. How many ships are we taking? Do-hyun asked. Command is assembling a response fleet, Taemin said. We'll have 5 frigates as escorts. We're supposed to leave in 48 hours. Hana shook her head. That might be too late. Look at the population numbers in the signal. They're losing people fast. By the time we get there, there might not be anyone left to save. Taemin looked at his crew. They were good people. They understood what was at stake. Then, we don't wait 48 hours. We leave in 12. Get the ship ready. His officers moved quickly. The Indomitable was humanity's newest dreadnought. It had weapons systems that could tear apart asteroids. It had shields that could withstand nuclear explosions. It was built for one purpose: to protect humanity from any threat. Now, for the first time, it would protect someone else. 12 hours later, the UES Indomitable powered up its FTL drives. 5 escort frigates took position around it. Taemin sat in the captain's chair, looking at the stars ahead. All ships report ready, Jinwoo said. Take us out, Taemin ordered. The ships jumped to faster than light speed, disappearing from Earth's orbit. They were heading toward a war zone, toward a dying civilization, toward an enemy they knew nothing about. On Thessia Prime, Mirith sat in the dark shelter, surrounded by frightened civilians. Above them, the Kryn continued their assault. The distress signal broadcast continuously into space. Thalvin checked his console one more time. Still, no response, he said, quietly. Myrith nodded. She hadn't expected one. The Deathworlds probably didn't care about their problems. Why would they? The Velthrin had nothing to offer them, but deep in her heart, she hoped. She hoped that somewhere in the darkness of space, someone had heard their call. Someone was coming. She just didn't know that the someone was far more dangerous than anything the galaxy had seen before. The stars shifted back into normal space as the human fleet dropped out of FTL travel. Taman watched the main screen as the sensors started mapping the Thesia system. What they showed made his jaw tighten. "Sir, I'm reading massive debris fields," Jinwoo reported from the weapons station. "Multiple destroyed stations. And I count 30 enemy vessels in orbit around the main planet." "Show me," Taman said. The screen changed to display the enemy ships. They were large, dark vessels with rough surfaces. They looked almost organic, like they had been grown instead of built. Weapons fire streamed from them down to the planet below. The Kryn were bombarding the surface. "Scan for life signs on the planet," Taman ordered. Hana worked at her console. "I'm picking up concentrated groups of life signs underground. Looks like shelter systems. But the enemy is targeting those locations. They're trying to break through to the civilians." "Captain, we're being hailed," the communications officer said. "It's coming from the planet's surface. Audio only. Put it through." A voice filled the bridge. The translation software converted it to words they could understand, but the fear in the voice needed no translation. "Unknown vessels. This is Council Leader Myrith of the Velthrin Coalition. Are you responding to our distress call?" Taman activated his microphone. "This is Captain Taman of the United Earth Space Forces. We received your signal. We're here to help." There was a long pause. Then the voice came back, shaking. "United Earth? You're from the quarantine zone. You're Deathworlders." "Yes," Taman said simply. "We're humans, and we don't let innocent people die when we can stop it. Tell me about those ships in orbit." "They're the Kryn. They came 3 weeks ago and started killing everyone. We tried to negotiate, but they don't want anything from us. They just want us dead. We've lost so many." The voice broke. Taman looked at his crew. Do-hyun's face was hard with anger. Sumi looked horrified. Even Jinwoo, who rarely showed emotion, seemed upset. They all understood what they were hearing. This wasn't conquest. It was genocide. "How many civilians are still alive?" Taman asked. "Maybe 500 million. Most are in underground shelters. But the Kryn are breaking through. We can't stop them." Taman made his decision. "Get your people as deep underground as possible. Stay away from the surface. We're going to handle the ships in orbit." "Your 6 ships," Myrith said. "They have 30. How can you?" "Just trust us," Taman said. He cut the communication and turned to Jinwoo. "Target the enemy vessels. I want firing solutions on all of them." "Sir, we should try to communicate with them first," the diplomatic officer suggested. "Protocol requires." "They're firing on civilian shelters," Taman interrupted. His voice was cold. "That's all the communication we need. Weapons, open a channel to those ships." Jinwoo nodded. "Channel open, sir." Taman spoke clearly. "Kryn vessels. This is Captain Taman of the UES Indomitable. You are attacking a civilian population under our protection. You have 60 seconds to power down your weapons and leave this system." For a moment, nothing happened. Then every Kryn ship turned toward the human fleet. Weapons ports opened along their hulls. "They're targeting us," Jinwoo reported. "Multiple weapons lock. They're firing." Dozens of projectiles streaked toward the human ships. They were railgun rounds, solid metal slugs moving at incredible speed. Against most ships, they would be devastating. Against human point defense systems, they were nothing. "Activate point defense," Taman ordered, calmly. The space around the human fleet lit up as automated cannons tracked and destroyed the incoming projectiles. Not a single round reached the ships. The Kryn had fired with everything they had, and it hadn't even scratched the human shields. "Return fire," Taman said. "Show them what real weapons look like." The UES Indomitable's main plasma lance charged. Energy gathered at the front of the ship, glowing brighter and brighter. Then it released. A beam of superheated plasma, contained by magnetic fields, lanced across space. It struck the first Kryn ship dead center. The vessel's hull turned white-hot, then simply vaporized. The beam continued through, hitting a second ship, then a third. All three exploded in brilliant flashes. The 5 escort frigates opened fire with missile batteries. Nuclear-tipped warheads crossed the distance in seconds. The Kryn tried to shoot them down, but human missiles were fast and smart. They dodged the defensive fire and struck home. Explosions bloomed across the enemy formation. Enemy shields are weak, Jinwoo reported. His fingers moved across his console, coordinating the weapon's fire. Their armor is thick, but not resistant to plasma or high explosives. They're not built to fight ships like ours. They're built to fight people who can't fight back, Do-hyun said from his station. Bullies. Taemin watched as another group of Kryn ships died under human fire. The frigates moved with precision, their engines allowing them to dodge and weave in ways the Kryn couldn't match. One frigate spun completely around while flying forward, its guns never stopping their fire. The Kryn tried to adapt. They spread out, trying to surround the human fleet. But the humans moved faster. The ships worked together like parts of a machine, each one covering the others. When Kryn vessels tried to flank, they flew into coordinated fire that tore them apart. Captain, 7 enemy ships are breaking formation, Jinwoo said. They're trying to run. Taemin's expression didn't change. Don't let them. Those ships came here to kill civilians. They don't get to leave. The frigates accelerated, chasing down the fleeing Kryn vessels. Their engines were more powerful, their ships faster. The Kryn had no chance. One by one, the running ships were caught and destroyed. 14 minutes after the battle started, it was over. 30 Kryn warships had been reduced to expanding clouds of debris. The human fleet hadn't taken a single hit. On the planet's surface, in the underground shelter, Myrith and her people watched through their sensors. They had seen the entire battle. They couldn't believe what they had just witnessed. Impossible, Thalvin whispered. They destroyed the entire fleet. In minutes, Myrith stared at the display. The 6 human ships sat in orbit, undamaged. Their weapons were still hot from firing. She had called for help from Deathworlders, not knowing what that really meant. Now she understood. These weren't just soldiers. They were something the galaxy had never prepared for. Council leader, the human ship is hailing us again, a technician said. Myrith took a shaking breath and accepted the communication. This is Myrith. The orbital area is secure, Captain Taemin said. His voice was calm, as if he hadn't just destroyed 30 warships. We're sending down medical teams and supplies. Our Marine commander will establish a perimeter around your shelters. You're safe now. How did you... Myrith couldn't finish the question. How did you destroy them so easily? How are you so strong? How are you so good at killing? Taemin seemed to understand. We come from a world where everything tried to kill us. We learned to be very good at fighting back. Rest now. We'll protect you. The communication ended. Myrith looked at her people. They were safe. The Kryn were gone. But a new reality was settling in. They had been saved by creatures from a death world. Creatures who fought with a skill and violence that terrified her. One of the council members spoke quietly. What have we brought into our lives? Myrith didn't have an answer. She watched on the sensors as small craft left the human ships and headed for the surface. Marines in armor. Medical teams. Supplies. Help. But also a reminder. The galaxy had kept the Deathworlders isolated for a reason. They were dangerous. They were powerful. They were warriors beyond anything the peaceful species could imagine. And now the Velthrin owed them everything. Above the planet, Taemin stood in front of the main screen, looking at the debris field. Scan for survivors, he ordered. No life signs in the wreckage, Jinwoo confirmed. Do-hyun spoke from behind him. Did we do the right thing? We just killed thousands of beings. Taemin turned to face his Marine commander. They were bombarding civilian shelters. They were hunting refugees. Yes, we did the right thing. The galaxy is going to hear about this, Hana said quietly. Earth just announced itself in the loudest way possible. Good, Taman said. Maybe others who prey on the weak will think twice, but in his heart, Taman knew the truth. This wasn't over. The Kryn had attacked with 30 ships. That meant there were more somewhere, and when they learned what happened here, they would respond. The battle for Thessia Prime was won. But the real war was just beginning. The transport ship touched down near the central sanctuary entrance. Do-hyun was the first to step out, followed by 20 Marines in full combat armor. Even with their helmets off, they looked intimidating. Their bodies were thick with muscle, their eyes sharp and alert. They moved in the low gravity of Thessia Prime like it was nothing. To the Velthrin, watching from the shelter entrance, the humans looked like walking tanks. Each Marine carried weapons that seemed too large for any normal being to lift. Their armor was black and gray, marked with symbols the Velthrin didn't recognize. Myreth walked forward to meet them. She was tall for her species, but standing next to Do-hyun, she barely reached his chest. Her people were thin and graceful, built for their gentle world. Next to the Marines, they looked like children. Council Leader Myreth, Do-hyun said, bowing slightly. I'm Commander Do-hyun. My team is here to secure the area and provide assistance. We've brought medical supplies and food. Thank you, Myreth said. She tried not to stare, but it was hard. The human's face was so different. Heavy bones, strong jaw, eyes that faced forward like a predator. Your help means everything to us. Just doing what's right, Do-hyun replied. He gestured to his Marines, and they began unloading supplies from the transport. Each Marine carried loads that would require machinery for the Velthrin to move. They did it like it weighed nothing. A young Velthrin child, no more than 6 cycles old, peeked out from behind her mother. She pointed at one of the Marines. Why is she so thick? The child asked in her language. The translation device picked it up. The Marine, a woman named Salmon, smiled. It's because I grew up in heavy gravity, little one. Where I'm from, everything is heavier. We have to be strong, just to stand up. The mother looked embarrassed, but Salmon knelt down, making herself smaller. Would you like to touch my armor? It's very strong. It protects me. The child reached out slowly and tapped the armor plate. Her eyes went wide. It's so hard. It has to be, Salmon said gently. There are dangerous things on my world. We need protection. Dr. Sumi arrived with the medical team an hour later. She set up a field hospital in one of the shelter's main chambers. When the Velthrin wounded started coming in, she got her first real look at how different the two species were. Their bones are hollow, she said to her assistant, Minho. Like bird bones, so light and fragile. A fall that would bruise a human could kill one of them. How do they survive? Minho asked. Low gravity, Sumi replied, scanning a Velthrin patient. Their world is 0.6 Earth gravity. They never needed strong bones. No predators, no harsh environment. They evolved for peace. A Velthrin medic named Kira watched Sumi work. She was fascinated and horrified at the same time. You cut into them? She asked when she saw Sumi preparing for surgery on a wounded Velthrin. Sometimes we have to, Sumi explained. If something is broken inside, we need to fix it directly. It's called surgery. Kira looked sick. On our world, any wound that deep means death. We can't heal from that. I know, Sumi said gently. That's why I'm being very careful. I've studied your biology. I can help. Later that day, a Marine came in with a broken rib. He had been moving debris when a piece fell on him. He walked into the medical area on his own, barely showing pain. Kira stared. He's injured. Why isn't he dying? Humans are tough, Sumi said, scanning the Marine. Ribs break. We heal. It's painful, but not usually fatal. Take a week off, Sang-hoon. Light duty only. Yes, ma'am, the Marine said, then walked back out. Kira couldn't process it. You people break your bones and survive? Regularly? Earth is harsh, Sumi explained. We evolved to heal from injuries that would kill other species. We had to, or we wouldn't have survived. That evening, Captain Taman invited Council Leader Myrith aboard the Indomitable. She brought Thalvin and 2 other council members. The humans sent a shuttle for them, and the ride up was smooth despite the debris field in orbit. When they entered the ship, the Velthrin immediately noticed the difference. The gravity was heavier, not crushing, but noticeable. Walking took more effort. The humans moved normally, but the Velthrin had to concentrate on each step. Taman met them in the briefing room. Please, sit, he said, gesturing to chairs that had been adjusted for their smaller size. I know you have questions. Many questions, Myrith said as she sat down carefully. But the first one is simple. Why did you help us? You don't know us. We have nothing to offer you. Why risk your people for strangers? Everyone, Taman considered his answer. Because it was the right thing to do. You were being attacked by an enemy that wanted to wipe you out. We've been there before. Humans know what it's like to face extinction. We couldn't let it happen to someone else. But you came so quickly, Thalvin said. You brought warships. You were ready to fight. We're always ready to fight, Jinwoo said from his station. On Earth, everything is a potential threat. We learned to be prepared for danger. It's how we survived. Tell us about Earth, Myrith asked. We need to understand. What kind of world creates warriors like you? Taman activated a holographic display. Earth appeared, spinning slowly. Blue oceans, green and brown continents, white clouds swirling in complex patterns. Earth is what we call a Class X death world, Taman began. The gravity is 1.0 standard. For you, that would feel like being crushed. The atmosphere is thick and active. We have storms that can destroy entire cities. Hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, tsunamis. The display showed images of massive storms, waves crashing against shores, the ground splitting open. The temperature varies wildly, Hana added. From freezing cold that can kill in minutes to heat that boils water. We have deserts where nothing survives and jungles so thick you can't see the sky. And the life? Taman continued. Earth is full of predators, animals that hunt and kill. We have bears that can crush bones, big cats that can run faster than most vehicles, snakes with venom that stops your heart, and smaller things too. Bacteria and viruses that cause plagues, plants that are toxic to touch. The Velthrin watched in growing horror as images showed the various ways Earth could kill its inhabitants. How do you survive? Myrith whispered. We became the apex predator, Jinwoo said simply. We learned to hunt better than anything else. We made tools and weapons. We built shelters and cities. We studied the diseases and learned to cure them. We didn't just survive Earth. We conquered it. And that made you good at war, Thalvin said quietly. Yes, Taman admitted. Earth trained us for conflict. Every generation faced challenges that killed the weak and made the strong stronger. We evolved to fight, to heal from wounds, to solve problems with violence when necessary. It's in our nature now. We, Myrith felt a chill. And when your kind reached space, we brought those skills with us, Taman said. We built ships that could withstand punishment, weapons that could destroy threats. We prepared for the galaxy to be as dangerous as our homeworld. But it's not, Myrith said, understanding. Most of the galaxy is peaceful. Most species evolved on kind worlds. We never needed to become warriors. We never learned to fight. That's why the Kryn targeted you, Do-hyun said, entering the briefing room. They look for weak prey, species that can't defend themselves. They're scavengers, not soldiers. Taman brought up new data on the display. We recovered information from the destroyed Kryn ships. It's not good news. The 30 ships that attacked you were just a raiding group. The Kryn have a main fleet. Over 200 ships in a staging area called the Varentis Cluster. The Velthran Council members looked at each other in despair. 200 ships, Myrith said. We can't fight that. Even with your help, how can we stop them? We can, Taman said firmly. Earth is sending more ships. A full battle fleet. We'll meet the Kryn at their staging area and end this threat. You would do that? Myrith asked. Risk your fleet for us? The Kryn won't stop with your people, Taman explained. They're a threat to everyone. Better to stop them now before they grow stronger. Besides, he smiled slightly. Humans don't leave jobs half-finished. Myrith stood up, wobbling slightly in the heavier gravity. Captain Taman, my people owe you a debt we can never repay. You saved us from extinction. You're offering to fight a war for us. I don't understand why you're so generous to strangers. Taman stood as well, meeting her eyes. Because we believe that strength should protect the weak, not exploit them. We come from a harsh world, but that taught us the value of life. Every person who survives against odds deserves respect. Your people survived for weeks against an enemy you weren't built to fight. That takes courage. We respect courage. The Velthran delegation left the ship later that evening, their minds full of new understanding. They had thought the Deathworlders would be monsters. Instead, they found protectors. Dangerous. Yes. Violent, certainly. But also honorable and kind. On the bridge, after the Velthran left, Hana spoke quietly. Do you think they understand what's coming? If we go to war with the Kryn, it's going to be brutal. They're starting to understand, Taman said, looking at the planet below. They're learning what it means when Deathworlders decide to fight. The question is, will the rest of the galaxy be ready for that lesson? The data package arrived at Earth Command 6 hours after the battle. Fleet Admiral Minjay read through Captain Taman's report 3 times, each time his expression growing more serious. When he finished, he called an emergency meeting with the Defense Council. The Kryn swarm is a bigger threat than we thought, Minjay said, displaying the captured data for the Council. They have over 200 warships in the Varentis cluster. They're planning to attack all 5 Velthran worlds simultaneously and wipe them out completely. Representative Nari leaned forward, studying the star map. What's our interest in this? We saved the Velthran at Thessia. We've done our part. Have we? Minjay asked. Look at the Kryn's pattern. They don't just conquer. They consume every species they defeat. They break down and incorporate into their ships and technology. They're like a virus, spreading through the galaxy. He pulled up more images from the captured ships. The council members looked away in disgust. The Kryn vessels were part machine, part biological matter from dozens of different species. If we don't stop them now, they'll keep growing, Minjay continued. Eventually, they'll become a threat to Earth itself. Better to cut them off, while they're still manageable. How many ships can we mobilize? Asked Resource Director Sungho. 15 dreadnoughts, 40 support vessels, and carrier groups with fighter wings, Minjay replied. It will take 1 week to assemble the fleet. Nari nodded slowly. Do it. But make sure the rest of the galaxy knows why we're doing this. We're protecting innocent people, not starting a conquest. Understood, Minjay said. I'll lead the fleet personally. Back on Thessia Prime, Yuna was working with the Velthran to help them understand how humans fought. She had been assigned as the liaison officer, a bridge between the two species. It was harder than she expected. You have to understand, she explained to a room full of Velthran military officers. Humans see war differently than you do. We don't fight to win territory or resources. We fight to eliminate threats. Completely. That sounds cruel. One of the officers said. Maybe, Yuna admitted. But it's effective. When humans go to war, we commit fully. We study the enemy, find their weaknesses, and strike with everything we have. We don't stop until the threat is gone. She pulled up tactical displays showing human military doctrine. We call it combined arms warfare. Ships, ground forces, air support, all working together. We hit the enemy from every angle at once. We overwhelm them. The Velthran officers looked uncomfortable. Their species had fought few wars. When they did, it was small border disputes settled quickly. They had never seen total war. Tactical Officer Junho entered the room carrying a container. With the Admiral's permission, I'd like to show them some of our weapons. Yuna nodded. Junho opened the container and pulled out what looked like a simple gray tube. This is a standard human infantry rifle. It fires metal projectiles at 3,000 meters per second. The rounds can punch through most armor. He set it down and pulled out something larger. This is a plasma rifle. It fires superheated gas contained by magnetic fields. It can melt through ship hulls. The Velthran stared at the weapons. One of them spoke quietly. On our world, we have stun weapons. Tools to stop someone without killing. We've never needed weapons designed only to kill. Earth is different, Junho said, not unkindly. These weapons seem brutal to you, but they've kept humanity alive. And now they'll keep you alive too. In the medical bay, Dr. Sumi was teaching Kira about human medicine. The young Velthran medic had stayed close, fascinated by how different human healing was. You have medicine for infections? Kira asked, looking at the antibiotics Sumi showed her. Yes. On Earth, we're constantly fighting bacteria and viruses. Our bodies have immune systems that fight disease, but sometimes we need help. So, we created these drugs, and you cut people open to fix them, Kira said, still struggling with the concept of surgery. When necessary, Sumi confirmed. Humans heal from major injuries. We can lose blood and survive, break bones and survive. Even damage to organs can be repaired. Our bodies are built to endure trauma. Kira touched her own thin arm. We're so fragile compared to you. If my people go to war alongside yours, we'll die so easily. Sumi put a hand on her shoulder gently. That's why you stay behind our lines. Let humans do the fighting. You focus on what you're good at. Science, medicine, rebuilding. Every species has strengths. Yours is creating beauty and knowledge. Ours is surviving harsh conditions. Outside the shelter, Do-hyun was training a group of Velthran volunteers in basic combat. It wasn't going well. No, he said patiently as a Velthran tried to hold a stun weapon. You need to brace it against your shoulder. The recoil will knock you down otherwise. The Velthran tried again, but his thin arms shook with the effort. When he fired, the recoil pushed him backward 3 steps. Do-hyun sighed. It wasn't the Velthran's fault. They simply weren't built for combat. Their bodies were too light. Their bones too fragile. Even in training, 2 had already gotten minor injuries just from falling. Let's try something else, Do-hyun said. Forget weapons. Focus on operating defensive systems. You can monitor sensors, control automated turrets, coordinate evacuation. Leave the shooting to us. The Velthran looked relieved. One of them spoke up. Commander Do-hyun, do you think less of us? Because we can't fight like humans? Do-hyun shook his head. Not at all. You're scientists, artists, builders. You've created a beautiful civilization. That's impressive. Humans are good at fighting because we had to be. If Earth had been a kinder world, maybe we'd be more like you. Different doesn't mean better or worse. It just means different. 3 days later, Earth's fleet arrived. 15 massive dreadnoughts dropped out of FTL space around Thessia Prime. The Velthran watched in awe as ship after ship appeared. Each one was larger than their biggest station. Each one carried enough firepower to destroy planets. Admiral Minjae's flagship, the UES Harbinger, took position next to the Indomitable. Minjay himself transported down to meet with the Velthran Council and Captain Taman. "Impressive fleet," Mirith said when they gathered in the council chamber. "This is 40% of Earth's active military," Minjay explained. "The rest stays behind to protect our worlds. But this should be enough to handle the Kryn." Taman pulled up the tactical data. "The Vorentis cluster is heavily defended. The Kryn have set up a command station at the center. That's where they coordinate their forces. If we can destroy that station, their fleet will lose coordination. A direct assault will be costly," Minjay noted. "Even with our technological advantage, 200 ships can overwhelm us through sheer numbers. So we don't fight them all at once?" Do-hyun suggested. "We use a strike team to infiltrate the command station while the main fleet keeps the Kryn busy. Destroy the station, and their fleet falls apart." "That's suicide," one of the Velthran officers said. "You'd have to fight through the entire Kryn force to reach the station." "Not if we use stealth," Hana said. She brought up ship schematics. "We have 6 stealth corvettes. They use technology that makes them nearly invisible. A small team could slip through while the battle is happening." Myrith stood up. "If you're sending a team to the station, I want to go with them. This is my people's fight. We should be part of ending it." "Council leader, that's not necessary," Taman began. "It is," Myrith insisted. "My people need to see that we're not just victims waiting to be saved. We need to be part of our own defense. Besides, I know things about the Kryn from the intelligence we gathered. I can help." Taman looked at Minjay, who nodded slightly. "All right," Taman said. "You can come, but you follow my orders. Where we're going, you'll see humans at their most dangerous. We won't be holding back." "I understand," Myrith said firmly. Over the next 2 days, the combined fleet prepared for the assault. 50 Velthran ships joined the human fleet. They were smaller, science vessels retrofitted with basic weapons. They wouldn't do much damage, but they could provide support and rescue operations. The night before departure, Yuna found Taman on the Indomitable's observation deck. He was looking at Earth, visible in the distance. "Nervous?" she asked. "Always before battle?" Taman admitted. "But this is different. We're not fighting for territory or resources. We're fighting to save a species from extinction. That's worth the risk." "Then, the galaxy is going to change after this," Yuna said. "Earth won't be the isolated death world anymore. Everyone will know what we can do." "I know," Taman said quietly. "I just hope they see us as protectors, not threats." "Show them both," Yuna suggested. "Show them we're dangerous to those who harm innocents, but allies to those who need help. Maybe that's what the galaxy needs, someone strong enough to fight." Taman smiled slightly. "When did you become a philosopher?" "When I realized Deathworlders might be exactly what this galaxy needs," Yuna replied. The next morning, the combined fleet gathered. 65 ships in total, ready to face an enemy force 3 times their size. Admiral Minjai broadcast to all vessels, "Today, we fight not for conquest, but for justice. We fight for people who cannot fight for themselves. We fight because it's right. Let the galaxy see what humanity stands for. All ships, engage FTL drives. Destination: Vorentis Cluster. Thanks for watching. I'm I1." The fleet jumped to faster-than-light speed, disappearing into the void. Behind them, on Thessia Prime, millions of Velthran watched and prayed. Their fate rested with the Deathworlders now. The combined fleet dropped out of FTL at the edge of the Vorentis cluster. What they saw made even the experienced human officers pause. The Kryn had built a fortress. 200 warships orbited a massive biomechanical station at the cluster's center. The station itself was huge, easily 50 times larger than Earth's biggest space station. It pulsed with organic light, clearly alive in some terrible way. Scanning the station, Hannah reported from the Indomitable. It's definitely the command center. I'm picking up signals going out to all the Kryn ships. It's controlling them like a hive mind. Admiral Min Jae studied the formation from the Harbinger's bridge. The Kryn had noticed them. Ships were already turning to face the human fleet, weapons charging. All ships, battle formation, Min Jae ordered. Dreadnoughts at center. Frigates on flanks. Velthrin vessels. Stay at maximum range and provide sensor support. Captain Taman, you ready for the infiltration? On the Indomitable, Taman checked his combat suit one last time. Strike team is ready. The stealth corvette is prepped. Good luck, Captain, Min Jae said. Then he switched to fleet-wide communication. This is Fleet Admiral Min Jae of the United Earth Space Forces. Kryn vessels. You have attacked a civilization under our protection. You have killed innocent beings. You have one chance to surrender. Power down and withdraw. The Kryn response was immediate. Every ship opened fire at once. The space between the fleets filled with projectiles and energy beams. Shields up, Min Jae ordered. Return fire. Let's show them what Earth brings to war. The human dreadnoughts unleashed their main weapons. 15 plasma lances fired simultaneously, each one capable of coring through multiple ships. The beams crossed the distance. In seconds, Kryn ships exploded, their hulls unable to withstand the incredible heat. The frigates spread out, their missile batteries launching salvo after salvo. Nuclear warheads streaked through space. Trailing fire. Point defense systems on both sides tried to intercept, but human missiles were too fast and too smart. Explosions bloomed across the Kryn formation, but the Kryn had numbers. For every ship destroyed, 2 more moved to take its place, trying to overwhelm the human fleet through sheer mass. Enemy ships closing fast, Jinwoo reported. They're trying to get too close for our main weapons. Fighter wings, deploy, Min Jae ordered. Keep them off our capital ships. From the carrier vessels, hundreds of small fighter craft launched. Human pilots pushed their ships to speeds that would kill most species from the G-forces alone. They wove through the Kryn formation, targeting engines and weapons systems. While the battle raged, the stealth corvette with Taman's strike team slipped away from the main fleet. Aboard were Taman, Do-hyun, 12 Marines, Hana, Dr. Sumi, and Myreth. The Velthrin Council leader wore a human combat suit modified for her smaller frame. Stay close to me, Do-hyun told Myreth as they prepared. When we get inside that station, it's going to get violent fast. Don't hesitate. Don't freeze. Just move when I move. And stay behind cover. Do-hyun, Myreth nodded, trying not to show her fear. Through the corvette's windows, she could see the massive battle unfolding. Ships exploded in brilliant flashes. Weapons fire crossed the void in streams of death. It was beautiful and terrible. Coming up on the station, the pilot announced. No indication they've detected us. Starting docking approach. The corvette attached to a maintenance port on the station's underside. Hana quickly hacked the door controls using codes they'd extracted from captured Kryn computers. The airlock opened with a hiss. Move, Do-hyun ordered. The Marines went through first, weapons ready. The interior of the station was nightmarish. Walls pulsed with organic matter. Cables that looked like veins ran along the ceiling. The air smelled of decay and chemicals. This way, Hana said, checking her scanner. The command nexus is 3 levels up. I'm reading heavy biosigns ahead. Lots of Kryn between us and the target. They moved quickly through the corridors. The first group of Kryn defenders appeared around a corner. They were insect-like creatures, each one the size of a human. With sharp limbs and acid sprayers, the Marines opened fire without hesitation. Plasma bolts and bullets tore through the Kryn. The aliens tried to fight back, but they were too slow. Human reflexes, honed by evolution on a deadly world, were simply faster. Keep moving, Taman shouted. They couldn't stop. Every second they delayed gave the Kryn more time to organize a defense. Outside, the main battle was reaching its peak. The human fleet had destroyed over 70 Kryn ships, but they were taking damage now. The sheer number of enemies was beginning to tell. 2 frigates had been destroyed, and several dreadnoughts had damaged shields. "We need that command station down," Minjay said, watching his tactical display. "We can't hold them forever." "Captain Taman's team is still inside," the communications officer reported. No word yet. Inside the station, the strike team was fighting their way up through level after level. The Marines moved like a machine, each one covering the others. When one needed to reload, another stepped forward. They advanced steadily, despite fierce resistance. Myrith followed close behind Do-hyun, watching in amazement and horror. The humans fought with such efficiency. No wasted movement, no hesitation. They killed Kryn by the dozens, not showing mercy or emotion. This was what Deathworlders became when they stopped holding back. "Almost there," Hana called out. "Next chamber is the Nexus." They burst into a massive room. At the center floated a huge, brain-like structure, connected to thousands of cables. It pulsed with light, sending out commands to the Kryn fleet. Around it, dozens of Kryn warriors stood guard. "Hana, plant the charges," Taman ordered. "Everyone else, defensive positions." The battle in the chamber was chaos. Kryn warriors rushed from all sides. The Marines formed a circle around Hana, while she worked on placing antimatter charges. Do-hyun stood at the front, his rifle firing non-stop. A Kryn berserker, larger than the others, broke through the line. It charged straight at Hana. Do-hyun threw himself between them, taking an acid spray to the chest. His armor held, but the impact threw him down. "Do-hyun!" Sumi ran to him, scanning for injuries. The acid had burned through his outer armor, but not reached skin. He was hurt, but alive. "I'm fine," Do-hyun growled, getting back up. "Protect Hana." Taman and 2 Marines concentrated fire on the berserker. It took over 30 shots before it finally fell. More Kryn kept coming. The Marines' ammunition was running low. "Charges set," Hana shouted. "We have 30 seconds. Move!" "Move!" Taman ordered. The team ran for the exit, the Marines covering their retreat. Kryn warriors tried to stop them, but nothing could stop humans who had decided to survive. They made it to the corridor just as the charges detonated. The antimatter explosion tore through the Nexus, destroying the biomechanical brain in an instant. The blast wave shook the entire station. Outside, the effect was immediate. The Kryn ships suddenly lost coordination. They stopped moving in formation and began firing randomly. Some crashed into each other. Others spun aimlessly in space. "The command nexus is down," Jinwoo reported. "Enemy fleet is in disarray. All ships, press the attack," Minjay ordered. "End this now." The human fleet surged forward. Without coordination, the Kryn couldn't defend effectively. Ship after ship fell to human weapons. The battle turned into a massacre. The strike team made it back to their corvette as the station began tearing itself apart. The pilot pulled away just as explosions rippled through the structure. "Get us out of here," Taman ordered. The corvette accelerated away as the command station exploded in a massive fireball. The blast destroyed dozens of nearby Kryn ships. When the corvette rejoined the fleet, the battle was already over. Of the 200 Kryn ships, fewer than 30 remained. They were fleeing in all directions. "Let them go," Minjay ordered. "Send a message on all frequencies. Tell every Kryn in this sector. Earth protects the Velthran Coalition. Any further attacks will be met with total annihilation." On the Indomitable's bridge, the crew stood in exhausted silence. They had won, but the cost was visible on their faces. Sumi was treating Do-hyun's injuries. Several Marines had wounds. The fleet had lost ships and hundreds of crew members. Myrith sat in a corner, still processing what she had witnessed. She had seen humans at war. She had seen them kill without mercy, fight without fear, and sacrifice for each other. They were terrifying and admirable at the same time. "Are you okay?" Yuna asked, sitting beside her. "I don't know," Myrith admitted. "My people owe you everything. But I finally understand why the galaxy kept you isolated. You're so powerful, so dangerous." "We are," Yuna agreed. "But we choose to use that power to protect, not to conquer. That's what matters." 2 weeks later, on Thessia Prime, a ceremony was held. Representatives from all 5 Velthrin worlds gathered with the human fleet. Council leader Myreth stood before both her people and the humans. "Today, we honor those who saved us from extinction," she said. "The humans came when no one else would. They fought when we could not. They showed us that strength can be used for good. We sign this alliance not out of debt, but out of respect and friendship." The treaty was signed. Earth and the Velthrin coalition became formal allies. Across the galaxy, other civilizations watched and took note. The Deathworlders were no longer isolated. They had arrived on the galactic stage with overwhelming force and unexpected compassion. On the Harbinger's observation deck, Admiral Minjay stood with Captain Taman, looking at the stars. "The galaxy is going to be different now," Minjay said. "Maybe that's good," Taman replied. "Maybe they need someone willing to fight for what's right. Someone strong enough to protect the weak. And if they fear us," Taman smiled slightly, "let them fear the evil ones. We'll show the good ones that they have nothing to fear from Earth. We'll be the shield for those who need it." Below them, Thessia Prime was beginning to rebuild. Velthrin and humans worked side by side, constructing new shelters and repairing damaged cities. It was the beginning of something new. The galaxy had learned that Deathworlders were not monsters to be feared, but allies worth having. And in the dark spaces between the stars, other species watched and wondered. If humans could save the Velthrin, what else were they capable of? The answer would shape the galaxy for generations to come.